really happy to have Anya here today to take part. So please give her a big App Promotion Summit welcome to the virtual stage, and I'm going to hand over to her. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, James. And hi, everyone, also from me. I'm really happy that we're going to be spending the next few minutes together, even if it's just virtually, due to the current situation. And my talk is going to be about the first days are always the hardest. I think we all know that. And I'm going to be talking about how we actually doubled our week 1 retention. So before we get started, I want to give you a quick overview about today and what's the plan. So I'm going to be giving you an overview of our vision and where we are coming from. And then I'm going to go on and tell you a bit about how we learned to better understand our metrics, so more of like setting the framework. And then I'm also going to go into some very concrete actions that we took to improve our retention rates. And at the very end, we're going to do a brief ramp up, and I'm going to share with you some main takeaways. And before we get started, I also want to take some time to introduce myself to you. Unfortunately, we don't get the chance to meet each other in person now. So hi from my side, I'm Anya. I'm head of product marketing for the Adidas training app. I'm working at Runtastic for 3.5 years now already. And as you can all see, I'm streaming live from my living room. So welcome to my flat, everyone. Due to the current situation, I actually celebrated my 27th birthday in this lockdown period, so all virtually as well. And I recently rediscovered and got re-addicted to some retro games, so I can totally recommend that also to you guys, like really bad graphics, really blurry images and so on, but still very nice. And I'm a sneakerhead and totally addicted to that. So yeah, mainly having 3 stripes on them, as you can imagine. Cool, but let's get things started. So where we are coming from is we at Runtastic are since 2015 proud member of the Adidas family, and we are united by one shared vision. So we truly believe that through sports, we have the power to change lives. And because of this, we also see it as the core of our business to actually get people into sports and to enable them to do sports to be able to live up to our vision. And this sets us at Runtastic into a very unique position. So whatever we're doing, we're not mainly revenue driven or focusing on like increasing any revenue related metric, but we're really purely focused on getting people into sports, and hence engagement is a very big topic on our end. And this also leads me to today's topic and why retention rates are actually so important to us. And before I'm going to tell you how we actually doubled our week 1 retention, I'm going to tell you a bit on like what we did first, kind of like the exercises to get there. So we in the beginning actually had to ask ourselves, how often do our users naturally use our app and our product? So the main thing is like, what's actually the product usage interval? Is our product built for daily usage like social networking apps or even games? Or is it more of an on-demand product like e-commerce apps, for example? Or are we actually something in between? So this is just some sample data right now that I'm showing to you guys, but this is an exercise that we had to do ourselves as well. So you can see there the difference between daily retention rates and weekly ones. And for some companies and for some products, actually, the daily retention rates are pretty high because their product is really made for daily usage. But when we looked at our numbers, we figured out, well, you know, daily retention rates don't really make that much sense for us because only very few users would really do a workout on a daily basis. The majority of our users is active maybe like once a week or twice a week and so on. And for us, it doesn't matter if this is like day 1 after the install or if it's day 3 or day 5 or whatsoever, as long as they're coming back within the first week. So this is why we at Runtastic decided that our product usage interval is actually a weekly one. So this is why we also want to focus on weekly retentions. And in our sense, just to establish a common ground for all of us, week 1 retention for us means day 1 to day 7. So day 0 is for us always the day of the install, and then day 1 to day 7 is our week 1 retention. And before we actually asked us what does make our users stay, we asked ourselves as well, what does actually make others users stay? So maybe there's something out there that we can learn from. And I'm pretty sure you guys have all seen this at some point in time from Facebook. So for Facebook, users who added 7 friends in 10 days, that way around, were the most engaged and most active ones. So Facebook really knew like what they could drive in order to improve user engagement and user retention. And the same is true for Dropbox, for example. So for them, it's not just about creating an account, it's more about that the user actually drags at least one file into the Dropbox folder. If a user succeeds in that, they're way more likely to come back and actually stay with them. So once we knew all of this, we were like, okay, so what's this one critical event for us and what makes actually our users stay? And for that, we built our very own framework to come up with this. And this is like our lovely pyramid that we're using a lot within Runtastic. And at the very top of this pyramid, we have our retention metric, which in our case would be the week 1 retention. And for us, this defines the metric that we actually want to optimize on. But maybe you guys are already familiar with that. Retention rates are not really tangible for optimization. So it's like a user coming back to the app. But how do you make the user come back? Do you really just want to send him like a push notification to somehow try to get him back? Or are there actually other ways that we can intrinsically motivate the user to be coming back? So we're not just focusing on coming up with some content that we came up ourselves with like just yesterday to like push it out there and get them back, but really to establish a behavior within our users that will make them come back. And by asking ourselves those questions, we actually figured out, you know, we need something like a proxy metric. And a proxy metric because it really acts like a proxy server. So it just helps us to get where we actually want to get. And for us, the key thing is that it correlates with our retention metric. So we can be really relaxed and like lean back, knowing if we optimize our proxy metric, we will reach what we want to reach. And I mean, our initial goal of improving our retention metric. And what we saw also is that if we give to the teams like this proxy metric, it's way easier for them to optimize. So this is just like the very brief introduction to our framework, and I'm going to fill this now a bit more with life. So retention metric for us, week 1 retention, that the user comes back within the first 7 days after the install, no matter which day it actually is. And then the proxy metric for us is the install to activity rate. So what we figured out is that it's crucial for us to get the users to do the first activity as fast as possible, best way on day 0 even. So if we succeed in this on day 0, we actually know that they're more likely to come back within week 1 without us just sending like random new content or something like this. So we then figured out that making it as easy for our users as possible to finish the first activity is what we have to put all our efforts on. And now you guys might ask yourselves like, so, okay, that's a nice framework, but what did you really do to actually increase the install to activity rate and make your users do that first activity that you're talking about? And this is what I'm going to be going into more detail right now. So we knew we have to motivate them. And the first thing that we did was we implemented some user-facing changes in the product to increase our install to activity rate. The really cool thing about it was that just saying to the teams, hey, we need to get our users to do the first activity, they were super creative and they came up with amazing ideas, way more than what we could have ever thought of before. So on the one hand, they were happy because they were owning this metric and they were working autonomously. On the other hand, we were super happy as well because the results that they delivered were just insane. And to give you a bit more of a detail, what we did there was the first move that we did was unlocking our workouts tab. So the Adidas training app used to be a paid app in the past with a hard paywall. So meaning that we had a lot of content locked behind a premium paywall. And as a first step, we unlocked the majority of this content to make it available for free to our users, because if we want to get them into sports, we need to give them something to actually be active and do sports. So I'm gonna highlighting it here also on the screenshot that you see on the left-hand side. We just really made this whole section available for free. And of course, this also gave us like a nice bump in retention rates. But it's not just about actually unlocking some of the content. There are some other measures that had an even greater impact on our week 1 retention. And the second of it being launching new training plans. We used to have just one 12-week training plan, which is pretty popular for workout apps in general. And we said, okay, we want to open up our app for everyone. And probably there's just users who are not willing to commit for such a long period of time. So 12 weeks, really transforming your body might not be the right thing for everyone. So what we did is we launched a lot of new training plans, some specifically for runners, so that we also have content for our running app users in winter when it's probably not so nice to go out for a run when it's stormy and cold. And also some shorter plans, like a 3-week plan, for example, for those users who are more of like a beginner and who don't want to commit yet to like a 12-week full body transformation. As a third step, we launched the featured workout, and you can also see that highlighted on the left-hand side on the screenshot now. And this feature kind of changed our way of thinking a bit. So the featured workout is a workout that is coming from a content management system. And this means that there's actually a system behind it in the back, and it's not coming through the app specifically, so it's not hard-coded in there. And through that, we're actually able to release a new featured workout anytime we want. We're not bound to an app release. We really just need to define a workout. We need an image, we need some text, and we're done. And then we really just hit this publish button, and that's it. And with that, we're actually very flexible, and we can give our users a lot of new content on a frequent basis. Plus, we can also respond to demands from the market. So for example, the one that you're currently seeing there is the one that we have in the app this week, and it's a family workout, so fit with your family. We all experienced like this lockdown, we're all in this together, hopefully with our loved ones, and we just thought, hey, you know, maybe it's nice for people who do a workout if it's a bit more of like jumping around and like fun exercises, so the kids can just work out with them along and they can have some nice family time together. So yeah, for those reasons, the featured workout is really an amazing feature for us. But that's not all of our what we call dynamic content features. There's also one more, which is challenges. So challenges is a feature that we also launched recently, and we can, through that feature, challenge our users to do something. So for example, we could ask you to be active for 2 hours in the upcoming 2 weeks or so. And for the current situation, we thought, like, you know, it's probably nice to have something to engage our people and our users to be fit from home. And we're in this together, like in this global health crisis, but we're also in this challenge together. So it's way more fun if you can actually reach something with other people together instead of just focusing on yourself in those times. So we decided to set a collaborative goal for this challenge, a very ambitious one, we have to admit, of 1 million active hours. And all of the 465,000 participants that are in the challenge at the moment are contributing to that goal altogether. Besides those user-facing changes on the product that we did, we also accompanied them by product marketing. And the first thing that we did there was probably one of the biggest organizational changes that we've done in the past, and it was to connect product development and marketing through agile techniques. So we've already heard about this from other speakers and also on the panel, that this is something crucial, and we went through this process last year. So we used to have a tribe always consisting of people from product, from development, but also software testers and product designers, but marketing was never part of this. And we figured out that there's really like a lack of communication between those departments. And we as a company and as a tribe, we're just way stronger if we're all working on the same thing together. And for that, we moved marketing to the tribes, and we implemented what we call growth squads. So consisting of people from CRM, from user acquisition, product marketing, and campaign management. And we're all together focusing on exactly the same thing: getting our users to finish the first activity. So not just from a product and development perspective, also from a marketing side of things, full focus on exactly this. And for example, what we're doing there is we communicate every feature launch through CRM. CRM is one of our biggest channels and most powerful channels as well to reach our existing user base and tell them about any updates. So we really also saw a spike in our retention rates because we did not just launch that feature, we also communicated it to our whole user base, and we were even able to reactivate some of our dormant users through that. What we also did is we integrated a new messaging channel. So for us, this was not so easy in the past because we were so far away from product and development and we did not have shared goals. But now we had it. And we just told them like, you know, guys, if we integrate this new messaging channel, we can talk to our users in a better way. And we can actually take over of some of the communication directly within the app. So what we did is implementing inline in-app messages, which is like nicely sneaked into the UI, and it just collapses if there's no inline in-app message. But if there is one, it pops up and we can actually direct our users wherever we want through a deep link in the app. Another thing that we took on really fast was adapting the onboarding messaging journey to the new goal. So as we were also coming like from a more premium and revenue focus in the past, we still had like one or the other upselling message in there. And we just said, you know, we don't need this anymore. We want our users to provide them the content that they need to get started to be active. And this is why we totally revamped that one as well. And not just on the CRM side, we made some changes also on the UA side of things. So ROI is not an important metric to us anymore at that precise moment. So we're optimizing our UA campaigns on the first activity finished. And I've seen it on one of the panels before that there was a poll on where the users with the highest retention rate are coming from and that it's organic. And if you would have asked me that like a year ago, I would have fully agreed on this. But optimizing our UA campaigns on what we optimize the whole product on, we barely see any difference between organic and paid sources anymore. So this really helped us to acquire users with a higher retention rate. And last but not least, I mentioned our dynamic content features before, and every time we launch new content, we communicate it immediately on all our messaging channels as well. So for our users, they're already kind of like expecting, you know, that there's something new coming and that they're gonna get a heads up from us on what's in there. And by all of this, we did not just increase our week 1 retention rate, but we also have really, really amazing App Store ratings at the moment. So we are currently at a 4.8 store rating. And the really cool thing is, and I can only encourage you guys to read through some of the comments on your store page as well, is that our users are really giving us the feedback that we want to hear from them. So if we hear something like, hey, I had a pretty good first day, we're like, yes, this is exactly what we want to achieve. We want you as a user to feel like this is the right thing for you in the first days, because that ultimately drives our long-term retention rates then. So, and with that, I'm already coming to an end. So we also have some time for questions afterwards, but I'm just gonna share some main takeaways on my end. So the first being, I can only recommend you to fully understand what's driving your retention metric and establish something more tangible, like a proxy metric for your teams to work with. It's way easier for them to create ideas around it and know exactly what to work on, and they will also be able to work on it more independently. The second point being that bringing product development and marketing closer together. We went through this change last year. It was not always easy, but honestly, it was so worth it because we're all working on improving the same proxy metric from all angles. And that's just like the best thing we could have done. And last but not least, there's not just like good things about it. There's also one thing that you have to keep in mind: give it time. This is nothing that will change our payoff from 1 month to another one. It's really about like giving it some time. We also had to wait a bit until we saw the results, but what we're seeing now in terms of our retention rate, in terms of our monthly active user growth, is really stunning us month over month again. And I can only tell you, like, it's gonna pay off, but just wait for it. And with that being said, I'm already at the end of my presentation. Thank you guys so much for dialing in. And thank you so much, James, for organizing
Great.
this great online event.
Can we
And
do
if
a bit of Q&A?
yes, of course.
Yeah, great. Sorry, I thought you were about to disappear then, so I didn't want you
Oh, no,
to.
no, no.
Great. Well, so yeah, let's finish up with a bit of Q&A. I have a question. In terms of the squads you mentioned, yeah, it seems to be a big emerging theme, getting product and marketing and people to work together. And you said, yeah, people talking about the silos and getting through that by having a kind of squad model, which brings together people from the different functions working on a problem like, okay, how do you get to this first activity? So when you bring that squad, is that was just to focus on that issue of first activity, or are there further squads dealing with individual elements within that problem, or is it just one?
So the way we are structured is for the training app, we have a training tribe. And in this training tribe, we have three development squads, so consisting of people from product design, developers, but also test managers. And then we have a fourth squad, which is the growth squad. And each of our development squads has their own metric that they own. And for one of them, it's the install to activity rate. For others, it's something else. So we have this pyramid in like three different versions kind of. And for the growth squad, they are supporting wherever they are needed. So for them, it's really like if CRM is needed, we're supporting squad 1, squad 2, squad 3, whatever is there.
Great. I've just had a great idea for a future follow-up talk, hopefully in person in maybe London or Berlin or New York, around how you organize all this. So let's go to the questions. Mert had the first question. She's like, how are you measuring retention? There's all these different metrics. How, and you talked about focusing on how are you measuring it?
Yeah, so we still stick to the industry standards of measuring retention rate. So it's the app sessions divided by the cohort size, which is in our case the install. But for us, an app session does not have as much value as if the user actually does something in the app. So we are having a lot of other reports that we can actually make more sense of this. So we also have our own definition of retention rates, from registration to sport activity finished, for example, and we're comparing all of them together. So on the one hand, to benchmark us to the industry and to competitors, we're still using the industry standards, but on the other hand, there are also many other reports that we use alongside.
Got it. And there's a few, CRM was not a word we used to hear much in the app marketing world. And then suddenly, like last couple of years, we had people with job title mobile CRM, manager CRM. And we've got a couple of questions here. People asking, what CRM tool do you recommend? What tool do you use? And how do you use your CRM to communicate? Is it an email? Like, what's all the CRM stuff and
so first of all, we have kind of like two kinds of CRM managers. One are focusing on CRM core services, so on the whole collaboration with our partner and the tool we are using, which is Immersis in our case. And they're also focusing on the newsletter. And then we also have the CRM managers in the squads, and they are focusing on everything that is app related. So for all the push messages, in-app messages, inline in-app messages, notification, inbox, all of those kind of things are then handled by the CRM managers in the squad.
Got it. And you mentioned this removing the upsell and the monetization flow. Did that have, what effect did that have on monetization?
So we're
That's from
seeing now.
Alexander. Yeah, sorry.
Totally happy to answer the question too. So what we were seeing is that we are getting less initial purchases, so new users who are purchasing, and for those new users who purchase, it takes them way longer now because we're not upselling like right into their face anymore. But we still have like this user base of recurring revenues that are still coming in like month over month or year over year, depending on the type of subscription that they are in. So we definitely see a delay for new users to purchase our premium subscription. We also see a bit of lower numbers, but for us, the focus is on engagement. So this was expected and fine for us.
This is a good question from Simon Thillay. He said, I don't know if you'd be able to answer it or not, maybe the UA team would know, but did you see any improvements in store rankings for organic, either App Store rankings or better CPIs for paid following the improvement in retention?
Yeah, definitely. So we did a few changes to the app last year. So probably some of you guys know that the Adidas training app used to be called Runtastic Results. So ever since we're called Adidas Training, we also saw a positive impact on our store performance, definitely. So organically having like the Adidas name in there is also a benefit for us. On the other side, we also invested a lot into improving our vitals. So like all the key metrics around crash rate, ANR, cold startup time, warm startup time, like all of those kind of things. And we really saw that this had a huge impact. And after we actually dropped the hard paywall, we removed the trial and stuff like that from the app, we also saw that our store ratings recovered, and that ultimately gave us a boost. Like we are more eligible to featurings again. If we are featured, they perform way better than they did in the past. And of course, ultimately it lowers our acquisition cost a lot because we're getting more organic traffic now.
Got it. And Tasha is asking about personalization. Yeah, always kind of comes up as a kind of engagement kind of tool. Does that help you increase retention, or does it not make as much difference as you'd think?
I would say we're just in the very start of personalizing our content and also our messaging for our users. So what we recently introduced in the app are some questions that we ask the users right after registration and like kind of an onboarding tour. Because if we get that information from our users, we can better decide on what type of content we should bring to the app and then also really target it to them. So I can't really share much insights there yet because we only launched it recently, but that's definitely something we want to look into more because there are a lot of case studies out there that prove that personalization really helps you with retention rates, but I unfortunately can't share anything yet from our end.
Great. Are you okay there's quite a few more good questions. Are you okay to carry on a bit longer?
Yeah, totally. If that's fine for
Okay,
everyone.
great. So kind of like quick practical one for your inline in-app messages. This is from Michael. Do you use a standard tool or is it developed in-house?
So we are working for that still with Pushwoosh. So that's where all our in-app messages are still coming from. And we created, it's an HTML template that we're using there. And that one was created by one of our developers in-house because it needs to fit the UI and everything. So there's not really like anything standardized that we could have taken for that.
And Paul Davies says, hi, Anya, great talk, thank you. I'm interested to understand the process you undertook to define the most important event to impact retention as first activity. In hindsight, it seems obvious, but how did you establish this was the right event?
That was a lot of digging into the data. So that's what I missed out on in the introduction. I'm a huge data nerd, just to say that like right away. And what I was doing is I was pulling a lot of data from our data warehouse and all data sources that we're having. And I was just like searching for correlations. And honestly, in the beginning, I did not look into this metric. And I was just like, looking around, trying to find a correlation. And I was at some point pretty disappointed when I didn't find anything. And I kept on going, and at some point it was there. And ever since, we're also looking more into building models and applying machine learning from a data perspective to actually better understand what our users are doing. So also that we can learn about user patterns and stuff like that. So what I presented to you guys was one of the very first things that we did. We're a bit more advanced now already, and we also recently got a data scientist to join our tribe and the growth squad. So we really have the data resources right on the team now and can work with them to build better models and really like predict what our users are going to be doing, if we need to message them, and what type of behavior is for us the best that we should foster so that our users are sticking longer with us.
Okay, great. I think we'll take two more. There's one from an anonymous attendee saying, hi, Anya, amazing talk. And which SDK or analytics platforms are you using to analyze user activity? And Fabienne's also asking that, yeah, what sort of analytics tools are you using to gather all this data? And yeah.
So I know that there was already talk from AppsFlyer today, but we're using Adjust. So they are our MMP, and we're making heavy use of custom events that we're using for user acquisition, but also for CRM, for reporting, and so on. On the other hand, we are also using like our internal data services a lot. So we have a data team consisting of data engineers and data scientists, and they are providing us with standardized reports through a tool called Click. And besides that, they're also enabling us, like business users, more and more to access the data ourselves. So for example, like the whole growth squad has access to our data warehouse and the databases itself. So we are also querying the data ourselves and like really pulling from everywhere. We're not just depending on what's available in a certain surface, but we can actually dig deeper as well.
Great. And last question is for where it's not, how do you win back churned users? What worked better than others? So yeah, where it's not, this whole step hasn't flowed through, how do you work that?
What we actually see is that, or saw on past data, is that whenever we're making like those really big announcements and like there's a big change in the app, that actually helps us to win back certain users. So when we launched new training plans, for example, we launched 4 new ones at a time, and that was like a really big thing. And that helped us to win back a lot of users. Also, the launch of challenges is like a big feature, helped us a lot. And the smaller iterations that we're doing are more helping us to re-engage probably like dormant users, but not the ones that we consider as churned. So dormant ones have not been active in a while, but not for as long as the ones who we consider as churn. And for them, it's still easier to also win them back with just like a new challenge and not with the real feature launch, if you know what I mean.
Great. Okay, well, I guess we could keep going forever. But I think we've got most of the questions there, and a lot of great feedback. I remember you mentioned, and you couldn't see the chat. Maybe I'll change you the transcript, but it's just blowing up with positive comments on this talk. And yeah, I completely agree. It was great, really good, and lots of actionable stuff in there. And amazing you could share this fantastic result on retention. It's always the tough thing with the app funnel. It's absolutely brutal. Even once you get someone in the door, can you retain them? And it's great that you're coming here and sharing some ideas of how to do that. And I hope that can sort of help the whole ecosystem. So I'd like to ask you all to give a big virtual round of applause to Anya. And really appreciate her coming on today, and I hope we'll get her back again in future. Thank you all for attending also. And we've got one more talk today before we end for the day, and we've got some more talks tomorrow and next week, of course. And this next one's going to be focused on the acquisition side of things, and it's Solange from Badoo, and she's going to be talking about how to use alternative traffic sources and platforms for growth. So that should be really interesting. Badoo is a massive app as well, so that should be great. So thanks to Anya, and see you all shortly.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a lovely rest of the day.